What's going on, everyone? This is the first time the Nasdaq closed 3 times in a row outside of the lower level of the B band. So in today's video, we're going to go over the stock market. We're going to go over the crypto market. We're going to go over the bond market. Thank you guys so much for your likes, your comments, your subscribes. I really appreciate all of the love and the support that I'm receiving from everyone. And without further ado, let's get started with the video. All right, so here's a chart of the Nasdaq. All right, you can see here in May of 2021, recently, this was the most recent time that we closed 3 times or more outside of the lower level of the B band. Okay, so as you can see here, here's 1 close, 2, 3, and 4. Even though the 2nd and the 4th look very, very close, technically they still closed outside of the lower level of the B band. And when conditions are this overextended to the downside, what usually tends to happen is we have a strong reversal in the coming weeks, which is why I bought into calls for the Nasdaq, 358 calls expiring October 18th, because I believe that since we had 3 closes outside of the lower level, we may fall lower tomorrow as well, in which point I'll buy dips once more. But because we did, overextend so much, and if we compare it to May, you can see that eventually we do bounce. So I think that was a good opportunity to buy the bounce and buy that dip on the Nasdaq today. You can see here that that did not even occur during the entire COVID crisis. We were not even, we never closed outside of the lower level of the B band more than 2 times in a row. So this is very, very dramatic. The only other time that this happened was in August of 2019. See here, 1 close outside, the other close outside, the 3rd one outside, right? And then the 4th day we bounced, and then, eventually we moved back up. So that's August of 2019. And then also the same occurred for December of 2018. So you see we closed here, closed outside for a 2nd time, and then closed outside for a 3rd time. But of course, we ended up bouncing back. So that is the reason why I have this thesis for the Nasdaq, where I believe that regardless of whether we fall back down tomorrow, we will come back and retest these levels. The Nasdaq, I think, will end up retesting 360 to 361 very soon. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to buy the dips, average down heavier as we fall lower. So very quickly here, you can see this is a chart of the QQQ. We bought 358 calls, and the most close resistance to the upside is going to be around 362 to 361. And I mean, buying 358 calls is a very good risk reward here. I drew a fib level from May to the most recent highs, and you can see that the Nasdaq came back and retested this 38.2% fib level perfectly today. That was basically the low, and that level held. And you can see the Nasdaq is still not oversold on the RSI, which is basically telling me that there might be another drop to the downside. But of course, because we are this overextended to the downside, I'll just continue buying dips for a few weeks out. Most likely we'll get much more aggressive in terms of expiration date if we gap down lower. And if we gap down lower, I will be very, very happy. But of course, we need to see if they play around with retail market, with the retail traders' heads and hearts tomorrow. So the 30-year yield is bouncing. It found support, which is good for the Nasdaq. So essentially, if the 30-year yield can continue moving upward, then the Nasdaq will continue upward. But if the 30-year yield falls, then the Nasdaq falls. So the fact that the 30-year yield found support, that is also a good indication that the Nasdaq might bounce, right? All right, here's a chart of the IWM. You can see that the IWM fell very sharply today. The MACD has still yet to cross down below, which shows that there is tons of more room to the downside. Because, as you cross down below, that is bearish, and it means that there's still momentum to the downside. So we could potentially fall down below the 217 level on the IWM. But I'm keying off of the weakness in the Nasdaq for an expected bounce soon, right? overall, the IWM does seem like it's going to continue falling unless this 217.90 area holds. But of course, that doesn't really look like that might be the case, because the 10-year yield also topped out, and the 10-year yield, you can see, is very, very overextended on the RSI and on the MACD. And of course, we know that if the 10-year yield goes down, then that is bearish for the IWM. It means that the IWM will also go down and follow the 10-year yield, right? So the IWM is basically following the 10-year yield currently, because the 30-year yield is bouncing. And that's really it for the IWM and the NASDAQ. We can go ahead and check out the SPY now. All right, so we can see that the SPY closed below this blue trend line uptrend that we were having, this channel. It held yesterday. It held September 20th's low, and it closed above that level. But you know, of course, we also closed outside of the lower level of the B band today. And as you can see, the MACD is a bit oversold. It did cross down below, but you know, if the MACD were to fall down here to -8, this area here, it would be put in the same area as September 20th fall. So that would mean that there's still tons more room to the downside, potentially on the SPY even to 425 to 427 area down here. Okay, so yeah, if that happens on the SPY, then the rest of the market will really fall. But it all truly really depends right now on the extreme weakness in the NASDAQ. Can the NASDAQ hold and bounce off of these levels of support, or will it fall? So basically, if the NASDAQ continues falling, then the SPY and the IWM will surely continue falling as well. Okay, and that is really it for the overall markets and the bonds. So let's go ahead and take a look at the dollar now. So the dollar, it's pulling out of extreme overbought on the RSI, and you can see it's clearly uptrending in a euphoric manner in price action as well as on the MACD. So we need to see if this tops out here. You can see that it opened, and it looks like it's about to close outside of the upper level of the B band. And when that happens, that is very, very overextended. So we should expect a return soon for the dollar. And if that does happen, that could potentially be very, very bullish for the overall stock market. Okay, so the fact that the dollar is topping out like this is a good sign. Also, it is a good sign that the 30-year yield found support. Also, it's a good sign that the NASDAQ closed 3 times outside of the lower level of the B band. And usually when it does this, there is a big bounce to follow. So I feel good about those 358 calls that I bought. I alert all of my plays completely for free on Twitter. If you guys enjoyed this video, oh wow, we still have to go over the crypto market. So let's go over the crypto market. Bitcoin's bouncing. It looks very, very strong. It needs to close above 42,900 or the 43,000 level. So if it closes above that level today, that's going to be very, very bullish, because then that would basically validate the strength in the MACD, because this is extreme strength in the MACD right now. And then if we close above this level and we close above this trend line here, tomorrow that this trend line level is going to be 44,000, up essentially 44,200. So if we close above 44,200 tomorrow, that is going to be very, very bullish for a potential reversal and break of this bear flag formation that was formed here on Bitcoin. Okay, on Ethereum, it's the same concept. If we close above 3015, that would be very, very good, because essentially it would, we would be following Bitcoin, and our MACD on Ethereum is a bit more overbought. You can see it's been trading above for quite some time, which should have been a huge sell signal. But the fact that it's still held intact is pretty bullish, given the fact that we're this overbought in terms of the MACD. Okay, so here's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. And of course, make sure to follow, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. I post all of my trades live completely for free. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.